So, Ambassador Yevgen, thank you. It's a real pleasure to be here this morning. It's good also to see so many other friends from this region and with an interest in the Caspian. For over 30 years, the United States has been a consistent advocate for the independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of the states that emerged from the breakup of the former Soviet Union, including in Central Asia. And if the repetition of those principles may have seemed tired in years past, today we can see that they were not empty words. Principles matter. And at no time in the last 30 years have these principles been more directly under threat than today in Ukraine. Russia's unprovoked invasion of Ukraine is a flagrant violation of the UN Charter that undermines global order, peace, and security, and certainly contrary to US national security and foreign policy interests. And this war of aggression in Ukraine has profound implications for this region. It has led to economic disruptions, migration to Central Asia and other countries from Russia, and undermined regional security more broadly. And so that is why the United States is standing with these states, just as we have over the last 30 years, to put principles into practice across a broad range of our shared and mutual interests. On the economic front, the United States is committing to working on strengthening Central Asia's economic independence, boosting its economic prosperity, helping to diversify its economic partnerships, and reliably connecting it to global markets for the prosperity of all of our peoples. And we believe that the best way to advance our shared goal to realize a stable and prosperous Central Asia is to cultivate the institutions of an open society, the rule of law, vibrant civil society, respect for human rights, and an independent press. We support the reform agendas underway, which aim to create more accountable democratic governance, including in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, and we are prepared to assist with the implementation of these reforms. We are also cooperating closely with Central Asia on security to ensure that Afghanistan does not yet again become a source of threats to regional stability and security, or to our homeland here, or to our allies. Times of change and uncertainty also create opportunities, and we see this moment as a time to strengthen our relations with this important region. Let me say a little bit about sanctions, as I know these have also had an acute impact on the region. The United States and our allies and partners around the world imposed sanctions on Russia, as we said we would before this war started, but when it became clear that Moscow intended to launch this invasion. And this was done so to constrain its ability to prosecute this unjust and unprincipled war in Ukraine. And the United States and our partner governments remain relentlessly focused on restricting Russia's access to key technologies that fuel this brutality in Ukraine. And we should say that we won't hesitate to move against entities, no matter which country they're from, that help Russia wage this war or help it circumvent these sanctions. And so while we appreciate the complexities and historical interconnectivity that comes from bordering nations, we hope to see that all states and jurisdictions and economies take active steps to protect themselves and their banking sectors from being used for evasion and backfill activity. At the same time, we're committed to taking steps whenever possible to mitigate the impact of these measures on our partners. And this has been the case in Central Asia, where we've had constructive technical consultations aimed at assisting governments in their efforts to prevent their territory from being used, often unwittingly, to abet Russia's war against Ukraine. Central Asia has always been a crossroads, and the United States recognizes the important contributions that the region can make to many global priorities, such as energy security, food security, and regional stability. Others recognize this centrality as well. Just last week, we saw an in-person meeting of the Central Asia heads of state with President Xi in a format mirroring our own successful and long-standing regional diplomatic format, the C5+1. In that format, in the C5+1's associated working groups, we are together finding concrete solutions to the most pressing challenges facing Central Asia and the United States. The ministerial of the C5+1 in Astana this February tackled concrete ways we can work together to mitigate the impact of the current global economic crisis on energy prices, food prices, migration, limited export routes, debt management, and unemployment, and how we can work together to support improved border security and counterterrorism cooperation. This underscores the U.S. approach to Central Asia, not diktats, but partnership with fully sovereign states. And while we do not share a common border with our partners in Central Asia, we do share a common hope for a secure, prosperous, and independent region in which all are able to contribute and benefit. And we are committed to helping each country in Central Asia act in its own interests. We have a desire to foster closer people-to-people and cultural ties, and we seek to help the region reduce its financial and other dependencies on larger states. Looking forward, we see many opportunities for the United States to continue to deepen our partnerships with the countries of Central Asia, and I'll cite just a few examples here. First of all, U.S. companies bring unrivaled experience and technology that can be leveraged to build prosperity and foster greater efficiencies and development. We hope to see even more U.S. direct investment in Central Asia in energy, agriculture, environment, tourism, health, educational sectors, and others. And climate change and its associated environmental impacts are affecting us all, and the United States seeks to broaden cooperation with Central Asia on progress towards sustainable development goals, as well as an energy transition, greater energy security, and the abatement of environmental threats. Third, we continue to expand our English language and cultural outreach, including through the return of the Peace Corps to several Central Asian countries, promoting professional training opportunities, and this with the aim of helping to build a workforce and population that is prepared to leverage the host of employment opportunities, as well as more easily gain access to a broad range and sources of information. I know that Acting Das Stimler and Das Lachman will expand on these and other issues in their own remarks, so I won't go further. But all the states in this region, while facing very real challenges, also possess enormous potential, particularly in their human capital of young, entrepreneurial populations. The United States looks forward to working with each one of them to realize this potential. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Thank you to EFGAN and the board at CPC for inviting us to be here with you today, and good morning to all. It's a great pleasure to be here with you today to talk about Central Asia and the importance of the relationships between the United States and the countries of Central Asia and the Caspian region. The consequences of Putin's war against Ukraine continue to ripple globally, including in this region. Putin's weaponization of energy, including in all of the oil and gas markets, has shown us that we will continue to experience the results of this for much time to come. And the effects have been clear. Rising energy and commodity prices, increased demand for non-Russian gas, increased imperative to capture gas otherwise wasted as methane emissions, and an increased determination to accelerate the transition to clean energy sources. We can all see even more clearly today that Russia will never again be considered a reliable supplier of energy. Also clear are the tremendous opportunities in the Central Asian energy sector for private sector partners, especially where investment climates show transparent and business-friendly governance. Central Asia not only has some of the world's largest fossil fuel deposits, but also remarkable potential in renewable and clean energy. These offer tremendous opportunity for the economic and energy security of the region and beyond. Even with these remarkable resources and potential, we must recognize continued challenges. The region is landlocked, with access to global markets through Russia to the north, Iran to the south, and the PRC to the east, presenting logistical, commercial, and geopolitical challenges. The State Department's Bureau of Energy Resources works with Central Asian nations to strengthen their energy security and support them in meeting their climate goals and protecting their sovereignty and territorial integrity. As we've seen in spades in recent times, energy diversification is integral to ensuring that the region meets current domestic and global energy demand. In addition to promoting energy security through diversifying export routes, greater energy integration in the region will play an important role in regional energy dynamics. Natural gas transmission within the region is limited by infrastructure gaps and export cuts during periods of high domestic demand. Heavily subsidized energy tariffs also discourage efficient energy usage. This contributes to rolling blackouts, hampering economic activity and putting the population's safety at risk. We saw this in 2022 when a major technical fault in the regional power grid caused a blackout through large parts of Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan, and the entire Central Asian grid system collapsed. These infrastructure issues not only impact human welfare, but also degrade Central Asia's energy security. Aging fossil fuel extraction infrastructure in the region and poor emissions control also lead to disproportionately high methane emissions from oil and gas production, particularly in Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, and Uzbekistan, resulting in significant wasted resources and major climate impacts. This gas could easily be captured by eliminating routine venting and flaring and repairing leaks across the oil and gas value chains. Capturing methane from the oil and gas sector is one of the cheapest and easiest climate solutions we have available to us today, with significant energy security benefits and economic benefits. The United States is eager to work with Central Asian countries to accelerate methane reduction in this sector and others, including through project finance, policy and regulatory strengthening, and other technical assistance. By taking fast action to reduce methane, countries in this region can demonstrate their leadership on climate change, including on the global stage at this year's COP28 climate conference in the UAE. We are glad that Uzbekistan and the Kyrgyz Republic have signed on to the Global Methane Pledge, and we encourage more states in the region to join. Reducing methane emissions will be essential to meeting our climate goals under the Paris Agreement and to avoiding the worst impacts of climate change. Ultimately, the most effective way to increase the energy security of all of the Central Asian countries is through clean energy transition. Shifting from fossil fuels to renewables would also significantly contribute not only to climate action goals, but to reducing air pollution. Worldwide, a pacing factor in this energy transition will be the availability of critical energy minerals. As the world transitions to a clean energy economy, global demand for these critical minerals is set to skyrocket by 400 to 600% over the next several decades. For minerals such as lithium and graphite, used in electric vehicle batteries, demand will increase by even more, as much as 4,000%. So building stable, reliable, secure supply chains for these minerals critical to our energy transition is important to our engagement with Central Asia. Central Asia has sizable potential for these critical minerals and rare earth elements. The use of modern exploration technologies and investment is essential to unlocking the complex geology associated with these resources. With sound governance and experienced private sector partners, Central Asia could become an important contributor to advancing the global clean energy transition. We aim to address infrastructure needs in the Middle Corridor trade route across the Caspian and through Azerbaijan into Europe to better allow countries to export critical minerals like uranium and other energy products to the global markets. At the State Department, my Bureau of Energy Resources, inaugurated the Minerals Security Partnership, or MSP, to facilitate diversification and to build out the critical minerals supply chains. The MSP includes 12 countries besides the US, aims to facilitate investment in mining opportunities using the highest standards in the environmental, social, and governance arenas. And MSP can look to projects in Central Asia to achieve our goal of high environmental, social, governance standards and diversify critical mineral supply chains so that we do not depend on a single supplier and processor of these minerals. In addition to minerals, Central Asia has abundant renewable energy potential. Now, Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan both use hydroelectricity for power generation, which provides 90% and 53% of each country's total power generation, respectively. But as climate change shrinks the mountain glaciers that supply their hydroelectric power plants, that zero-carbon power source dwindles, diminishing energy security and exacerbating regional conflicts over water, access, and management. These factors really underscore that energy resource cooperation is more important than ever to enhance regional and national energy security. To support this effort, ENR, my Bureau's Power Sector Program, launched the Central Asia Energy Fellows Program. The fellowship will provide technical training, mentorship, and professional development for emerging energy specialists in Central Asia to advance research on clean and renewable energy and energy efficiency in the region and enhance cooperation among the Central Asian countries and with the United States. As Senior Director Berliner mentioned, when Central Asia, the countries of Central Asia, gained their independence from the Soviet Union, the United States was among the first partners and sources of political support and foreign investment, notably in the fossil fuel sector at that time. We look to be your partners in advancing this new era of investment and realization of the energy transition on clean technology and moving towards zero emission sources of energy. And we look forward again to continuing these conversations with all of you and looking for ways that we can support. So thank you again for inviting me here today, and I hope you have wonderful conversations.
Ambassadors, friends, good morning. It's great to be with you today. I'd like to thank EFGAN and his Caspian Policy Center team for organizing this event and for all you do to draw attention to this region. Like all of us, they're interested in working hard to help the region achieve its full potential. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about what the US government is doing to that end, specifically in Central Asia. As Das Lochman and Senior Director Berliner just explained, our US government Trans-Caspian policy is a key element of our engagement with Central Asia. However, it's only one part of our multifaceted policy toward the Central Asia region. And while I understand we're here today to talk about the Caspian region, I'd like to drill down a little bit and to speak about our broader policy towards Central Asia and highlight some of the extraordinary change taking place in our current relations. This past year has seen more high-level US engagement with Central Asian leaders than at any time in the over 30 years of these countries' independence. Since just last fall, Secretary Blinken has had 2 in-person ministerials with all of his Central Asian counterparts, all of them together, and over a dozen bilateral meetings with Central Asian presidents and foreign ministers. These were substantive, frank conversations in which they discussed many aspects of our cooperation, from our increasing security ties to our substantial investment in the region's professionals and young people. We're working together to strengthen these countries' resilience, political independence, and economic ties with each other and with the global economy. One of the most dynamic areas of change is the C5+1, our diplomatic platform for engaging with the 5 countries of Central Asia, the C5. Some have claimed in the past that this is more of a symbolic grouping rather than a format for substantive work, but that is absolutely not the case today. Last year, we established the C5+1 Secretariat to coordinate our exponentially growing regional portfolio and respond in real time to the needs of our partners. The C5+1 Secretariat convenes monthly with designated senior-level representatives working in the foreign ministry of each capital. Here in Washington, we have regular, almost daily, coordination that sets the stage for these important meetings, where delegations from each country advance shared priorities in 3 pillars of cooperation: energy and environment, economic, and security. We hold at least one in-person working group in each pillar per year, where we focus on shared priorities, identify problems to be addressed, and work together towards solutions. As an example of what this looks like, just to give some concrete examples, next week, we're hosting a C5+1 security working group in the Loy Henderson Auditorium at the State Department, the department's largest and most iconic conference space. We needed this room to accommodate the many agencies and delegations participating in the discussion, which will cover cyber, border security, and countering violent extremism, all areas where Central Asians are eager to engage with us. This isn't just a talk shop. This year alone, the United States is devoting over $100 million in assistance and engaging in over 40 programs in the C5+1 format. That's all in the C5+1 format. These programs are in addition to the already substantive bilateral development programs that we're running with each Central Asian country. To give you a sense of the scope of our C5+1 partnership, let me talk about what we're doing just this week in just one pillar, the security pillar. Activity number 1. The State Department's Counterterrorism Bureau is providing tactical medicine training through the C5+1 Border Security Program. Border guards and law enforcement officers from all 5 countries are participating and learning new skills that will help them keep Central Asian borders secure and their personnel safe. Activity number 2, the FBI is launching the International Executive Program for Central Asia in Almaty. This is a premier leadership program in which law enforcement officers from across the region, again, will form a cohort that will meet 6 times in each country over the next 18 months to address global and regional threats. Activity number 3, also this week in Almaty, the United States Institute of Peace is convening its Track 1.5 Regional Consultative Working Group, which regularly brings together key government institutions, civil society representative, experts, academics, and religious leaders to develop a more integrated response to regional and global security challenges. Again, these are our C5+1 activities, just in the security pillar, just this week. I hope that gives you a feel for the breadth and depth of all that we're doing in our collaboration with the C5 as a group. In addition, ERICEN, or the Economic Resilience in Central Asia Initiative, complements our C5+1 programs. This is a $45 million initiative recently announced by Secretary Blinken that's aimed at developing regional infrastructure to facilitate trade within and beyond the region, support the region's private sector, and increase training opportunities in English and tech skills. I could go on at length about our over 40 regional initiatives, but there isn't time today. Simply said, the US government is deploying an all-of-government approach to strengthen the C5's economic and political independence and develop the resilience all countries need during these trying times. We're trying to be a reliable partner to a region that's had few such partners in its history. Our efforts to be a reliable partner include our perennial focus on human rights and the importance of political and economic reform. We continue to highlight that security and prosperity for Central Asian countries is inevitably tied in the long term to freedom and opportunity for the people of Central Asia. In recent years, Central Asian governments have shown increased willingness to reform their economic and political systems. This change has been an important factor driving increased U.S. engagement in the region, both in terms of bilateral engagement and via the C5+1. These reforms have helped bring concrete U.S. investment to the region. Just today, Air Products Cooperation announced a $1 billion investment in Uzbekistan. That level of investment would have been unimaginable just a few years ago. The U.S. vision for its relationship with Central Asia is not confined to government interactions. Rather, we believe that a healthy partnership with the region demands multifaceted engagement across government, business, and civil society. We raise issues such as religious freedom, forced labor, and gender-based violence with Central Asian governments because ordinary people in the region raise these issues with us. We recognize that it can be difficult to make progress in these areas, and we engage bilaterally with C5 governments openly, but with patience and understanding. I've found that today's Central Asian leaders, they recognize the need for reform if their governments are to provide the future their citizens are expecting. As Ukraine has demonstrated so convincingly, a strong civil society is vital to a country's resilience and its ability to withstand external pressure. So we will continue to address these issues in all of our engagements with leaders in the region. In conclusion, thank you again for this opportunity to share a small piece of what the U.S. government is doing in Central Asia. We look forward to continuing our work, including our work with many of you to help the region achieve its full potential. Thank you.